Hey guys, Looney here. So I'm currently in Chiang Mai here in Thailand, and today's episode is a little different. So I've had my podcast, The Global Influencer, on iTunes for about a year now. Today's actually the official anniversary or birthday, if you will. I'm really excited. So I wanted to do a little something different, spice things up, if you will, and have the podcast available on YouTube. So today we'll be talking about dropshipping, debunking all the myths, because I'm a very skeptic New Yorker. And I actually invited Johnny FDK, who's the author behind, well, remind me.
So I have two books. One is 12 Weeks in Thailand, and one is Life Changes Quick.
And he also has a successful dropshipping business and a podcast as well.
Yeah, Travel Like a Boss podcast. You can find everything at johnnyfd.com.
So he'll provide us everything there's to know about dropshipping today, so stay tuned.
So hi everyone, I'm Johnny, originally from San Francisco. I lived in LA for a while, and I randomly came to Thailand on a vacation, just like a standard 2 or 3 week vacation. And I somehow just fell in love with scuba diving, I fell in love with Muay Thai, I fell in love with just kind of travel. And I realized how stressed I was at my normal life. So I did all that for a few years, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed, the backpacking scene and learning how to dive and working on these little resorts. But then I turned 32 and I was like, it's time to go home, get a real job. The problem is I didn't want to go home and get a real job, especially because I would have had to stay with my parents or with a friend for a few months while I got my act together and interviewed, and I was like, I do not want to do that. So I was like, I want to make money while traveling, but I want to make a US salary. And the only way I could think of is some kind of online business. But problem is I didn't know anything about online business. I had a blog, but it wasn't monetized. I was like, well, I want to sell something. I want to like maybe import some products, because here I'm in Thailand. Maybe I can, buy things and send it to the US. But it ended up being a lot more hassle than I thought. So I met someone who taught me about dropshipping. This guy named Anton, and he explained it to me, and I was like, wait, so I can be here and I can just be a dealer, an authorized dealer for one of these big brands back in the US. They can deal with the sourcing, whether they make it in the US or they source it from China or Japan, wherever they get it from. And I can basically just manage the website and sell from wherever I am. So that's kind of how I got started. So there's a couple different types of wholesalers. There's the importers like Alibaba, which I would only recommend if you have tested the product, you know what you want to sell, and then you want to import a ton of it. Maybe you want to import it into Amazon's warehouse, and you don't mind spending $15,000 buying the inventory. For dropshipping specifically, I would not use them at all, and I actually would not use a directory either. So what a directory is a company who is approved to sell all these different items, and they sign you up and you pay a monthly fee and you're allowed to sell their products. It makes it very easy, which is why people like it, but they have to make their money somehow. So not only are they charging you a monthly fee, but they take it out of your margins. And this is one of the biggest downsides with dropshipping, is your margins can be extremely slim because there's too many hands in that pocket. What I do is I go straight to the supplier. And there are some directories, like there's one called Dropshipmoz.com, that lists suppliers directly that they're not approved by them yet. They just give you their contact info and they say they do dropship. So if you want an account, you have to contact them directly. For me, for all my suppliers, I basically just called them up and said, hey, this is Johnny from XYZwarehouse.com. I would really like to carry your products. How can I be an authorized dealer for you? Now, the problem with that is if you are just starting out and you're nobody, you don't even have a website, you just have this idea, it's very hard to call this $1 million company and convince them to let you be an authorized dealer. I mean, imagine you trying to call Apple and say, hey, we want to open our own Apple store. And they probably, you probably can't even get in touch with them. But the way that I actually get approved is I try to make it seem like I'm already in business. And a couple tricks to that would be, to actually have a website already. And here's the problem: is a lot of people, they're not willing to invest in, let's say, building that website, even though it might only take you a few days or it might take you a week to build, because people are like, oh, I'm not sure if this is gonna work or not, or they don't know the next step. And what I really liked about being part of a course is I knew that there's steps, and there's someone else who's been through this already. I know that it works, and I liked following that formula. So even though I spent a week and a half building a website that might have been completely useless if I didn't get approved by anyone, I was committed, saying, you know what, this is the step, I have to do this. And when I started calling, sure enough, they're like, oh, what's your website? I'll take a look. And because I had spent the time and committed to building, a nice looking website with a good contact us page, a really nice about us page, kind of a backstory, and I had, the email address to send it from, it made me seem a lot more professional than someone, that just had this idea. So the thing about branding for the actual product, this is tricky because, so let's say I'm selling Blue Yeti microphones, and Blue's the manufacturer. Blue's probably not going to let me use my box, and honestly, I don't really need to, because they've already, I already have the email address, they're already a customer of mine, and my website could be something like, bestpodcastmics.com. So they, even though the packaging, when they arrive, when they get it, it's going to say Blue on it, because that's the manufacturer, and they're one shipping it. All the shipping confirmations, all the emails, all those things are going to come from my URL. So hopefully they either bookmark it, or hopefully I'm smart enough to keep in touch with them through like an email response system where they associate buying podcast equipment with my store, even though they associate the actual brand with that store. So I'm actually creating an affiliate marketing course as we speak, and hopefully that'll be out in a month or two. It's going to be called Earnest Affiliate, and the whole point of it is going to be how to make money online ethically and honestly, and only recommend products that actually work, that things that you've actually personally will vouch for. So for my own personal experience, I've always done some type of affiliate marketing, as in if I was going to recommend a book, let's say Tony Robbins' new book, I might as well use my Amazon affiliate link because I get credit for it. So I've always made a couple bucks here and there from my blog or from things like that. And even with my dropshipping store, when I send out like an order confirmation, sometimes I'll have a link in there saying, hey, since you're into yoga, check out this yoga book that I really enjoy. So there's definitely not mutually exclusive. You don't have to pick one or the other. But the reason why I started with dropshipping, and that even till today is my main source of income, and everything else is kind of just side income, is because I wanted to sell a product that someone could hold in their hand. Something that actually went through FedEx or UPS, something that people can touch, and to me it just felt like more of a real business. And I think the biggest problem with digital businesses is when someone's starting out, because it's not a real physical item, people don't treat it with that respect that they would a physical business. When I started my dropshipping stores, I thought of it as, if I was going to open a physical retail location on, in Manhattan, or on, in Santa Monica on 3rd Street, and I was going to spend $150,000 setting up the shop, and decorating and buying cash registers, hiring employees, how much effort would I put into it? And even though it's a 100th of the cost to set up a dropshipping store, that was still my mentality. I still have inventory. It's still a real item that needs to get shipped. These are real customers that I sometimes have spoken to on the phone, or I've emailed back and forth. So to me, it really concreted, I need to treat this as real business. And with affiliate marketing, it's always been, I might as well, if I'm going to recommend something that works, I might as well get credit for it. And it's almost as easy as one of those things where, if you've ever signed up for something and they say, do you like this service, refer a friend, and you each get $25. To me, that's the most basis of affiliate marketing. Like, I wrote a book called Life Changes Quick, and it really does, because all of a sudden I woke up, and instead of being broke and being single and being super out of shape and being really just unhappy and kind of on the verge of saying, what, I don't know what else to do in life. This is kind of, maybe I was dealt a bad hand or something. It almost felt like overnight, all of a sudden, everything started coming together. But in reality, it was months and months and months of preparation. It was me first deciding, you know what, let me just stop dating until I get my act together. Because instead of just feeling entitled, you know, everyone wants to have a significant other, you know, everyone wants to have other people chase them and love them. But if if you're not ready for that, then you can't really expect it. And it took me a long time, it took me 32 years to figure that out and say, you know what, let me just take a year off dating. You know, I'm clearly not ready for it. I can't even really afford to go out to a nice dinner. So why, maybe I just shouldn't be dating. And because I had all this free time and mental energy again, I'm like, let me just focus on getting in shape. And then once I started getting in shape, I had so much more energy. And I'm like, well, you know what? Now maybe I have all this extra time. Maybe I should start a real business. And once I had that up and running, everything else came naturally. So it's one of those things that's a snowball, and it's like when you see the tip of an iceberg, you have to realize that underneath is years of foundation. There's enough information out there that you could do on your own, but most people won't. I mean, it's one of those things where if you want to give yourself the best shot, follow someone who's done it before. It's almost like I could go hiking in the jungle here by myself and I might be okay, but I'd rather just follow a guide who that's what they do and they're good at it, and I trust them and I know they're going to lead me the right direction. And with dropshipping, that's why I'm so happy that I invested in myself, and I was like, let me just take a course instead of trying to figure this out on my own. With a course, it's kind of like having a personal trainer. Not only do you have a mentor built in, but you also have a system to follow. And I think one of the best things about it is you get a community of other people who are doing it. So with every good course, there's like some type of private member forum where people can interact with each other, and when they and I think that group dynamic, and you see everyone struggling at the same time but also making progress, and then one person's like, oh, I made my first sale, you're like, oh, well, if he did it, I can as well, because we started at the same time. And then you also have the leader, the mentor, and they want you to do well. I mean, because it's good for them, it's good, it's good marketing for them if everyone who follows their system is also successful. So I would say 100% get a mentor, follow a system. The best is to find these people in person, because I'm a firm believer that if you meet someone in person, you look in their eye and you're like, are you a genuine person or not? You can kind of tell. But also, I think just now that there's such a big online presence, I think one of the big reasons why people are so comfortable with me is not only have I been blogging for so many years, I have little funny YouTube videos that I make with my friends and my girlfriend, and they kind of get to know my personality. With podcasts, for example, it's like having an hour-long conversation with someone every week, and you're like, oh well, I can see this person transforming. I can see their lifestyle getting better. I can see that they're very earnestly trying to help other people. You can see that they genuinely care. I would say that's probably the best way. And if you can meet them in person, I would say that's by far the best. Or at least get to know their personality through finding their podcast or video, or just asking around, asking your friends, do you vouch for this person? Get started. Here's absolutely 100% is get started. I have people who, let's say they were following my blog, Johnny FD, and they're like, 8 months ago, they're like, oh, I don't know, dropshipping is getting a bit competitive now, I don't know if I should be doing it. And I'm like, oh, well, then, don't do it. And 8 months later, they're like, oh, I'm still thinking about starting something, oh, but now it's even more competitive. I'm like, well, it was less competitive 8 months ago, why didn't you start then? And then, honestly, people started making me doubt myself too. I'm like, well, maybe I was lucky. Maybe because I started 2 years ago, that was the prime time, and now it's now it doesn't work anymore. But now I've silenced those naysayers, because when my girlfriend quit her job a few months ago, I was like, well, what should we do? I'm like, I don't know. The only thing I know how to make money from is dropshipping store. Maybe you should start one. And we went through the whole process again from scratch. I made her watch all the videos from the beginning. We went through the niche research phase, call suppliers, build the website, and it was scary all over again, because it's been 2 years, And I'm like, well, maybe, you know, I've heard all these naysayers saying like, oh, it's too late, it doesn't work. But guess what? It worked. And now she's replaced her 9-to-5 income. You know, we have another successful store. And it's one of those things where I've learned, first, just start, because there's an old proverb. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And the other part of it is silence the naysayers. There's always going to be people, you know, with doubts, but the fact is, very, very few of them are actually successful.
And be passionate.
And be passionate.
Oh,
Yeah,
me too. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. I really appreciate it.
yeah, it's been really fun.
Thank you guys for watching. It was a real pleasure interviewing Johnny. This guy's a real deal, no BS, and he gave straight up, legit answers. My personal takeaway from the interview is that mindset and determinations are key to success. I mean, you could tell from the interview that Johnny's a really upbeat guy, ready to help anyone, and injecting this positive energy and collaborative mindset into his business has really helped him being successful. If you like the show today, I really encourage you to either subscribe on YouTube or my podcast on iTunes, whatever medium you like best. Go to lunavega.net as I provide weekly tips on how to expand your business internationally. Bye.